I hope you're ready for some excitement because I'm ready to start cutting some wood. But before I do that, I want to go over what my cutting board design is and how I came up with the numbers to make this all work. In this end grain cutting board, I want to put and inlay a maple C inside of a walnut cutting board. In order to find the dimensions, I knew I wanted it to be 17.5 by 11.5 inches. It's a decent sized cutting board. It'll probably be 1.5 inches thick, give or take a little bit. I had to go to CB Designer and it's Cutting Board Designer. It's an easy to use program. You can find it online, just search CB Designer. I'll put it in the link below. But it was a great tool to figure out how to come up with everything I need. For the walnut, the first thing you have to do when you're making an end grain cutting board, sounds crazy, you have to make an edge grain cutting board. In order to give my cutting board character, I wanted to use strips, because when you turn those on end grain, the strips, I'm going to have them alternating different directions. Adds a lot of character and fun to the cutting board. And after plugging all the information into that program, I need 6 strips that are 42 inches long and 2 inches wide. For the maple, for that edge grain, this is what I need when I'm at the table saw. I need 8 strips that are 20 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. That will give me the perfect size for the inlay. That being said, I am ready to go make some edge grain cutting boards. And then after we get those done, I'll come back and I'll show you what we have to do to get the right end grain cutting board dimensions done. Let's jump over to the miter saw and start cutting down and breaking down some lumber. I'll make it quick so I don't bore you. Listen to the good music. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Like it anyway. Let's go. All right, I cut all the walnut. I only needed, according to the board, 6 strips, and I have cut 8, because you always need to cut a little extra. Bad knots. You don't want them in end grain cutting boards. Look at that. That would just be a nightmare. Always, always, always cut extra. Always. Let's glue it up. Part 2 is to take this board that we just glued up and cut it into strips. So let's make that a little more easy to understand. We are going to use the end grain, and for the walnut board, we need to make 25 cross cuts. Pretend like that's 25. Then the maple one, we'll need 22 of those cross cut strips. The walnut one's going to be 1.5 inches wide because that makes the thickness of our cutting board, because we're going to be using the end grain. This end grain right here is what we're going to use. We cut, that's our thickness, and we're going to stack them all in a row. Pay attention, I'll show you how it's done. Our next thing to do is to glue these up, and how this works, take the walnut, put it down, take the next piece, put it down, flip it around. Give it a little fun design, set it down, and just make sure you're paying attention to the grain, because that is where the design comes in. And you want to have this be alternating. You don't want everything to be the same. Give it a little bit of character. All right, I'm gonna put these all together and glue it up. Keep watching. Well, I figured I'd show you that not everything goes as planned. I don't know if we can get it in a close shot here, but you can see light going through the middle there as I tilt this back and forth. It didn't get a really good glue up. Kind of on the edges here too, a couple little gaps. So we'll have to work around that. Let's take a look here. Looks like it got everywhere on the surface. You really can't even feel those little stripes even though you can see them. All right, so our next step is to cut out a pattern, and it's the pattern of a C, which you'll see here shortly. And the first cut is with this same 1/4 inch end mill. Looks like it's a quick 5-minute job, according to the machine here. All right, that did an excellent job, cleared everything out. So our next step is to use this bit right here. It's a 60-degree V-bit. I guess get it from Garrett Fromm at IDC Woodcraft. So I'll leave a link up here for you, right up there. And we'll see if you like it, great. I'll show you what it looks like here. I would go there, I'll leave his information. You can go there and buy them. If you've seen Garrett and his work, leave a comment below so other people know that he has some good work, so they'll go check him out. See, it's all carved out. So let's take this thing out. See, it's got some depth to it. Next thing to do is to take the maple and make sure that that's flush, and we'll carve out the male part that goes here. So, see you shortly. Oh man, that's looking sweet. That is fantastic. Oh, I'm loving it. Let's get this thing out of here. Clean it off a little bit. Look at that. Notice it's a backwards, see? Because when you do an inlay, this has to be the negative of what the inlay actually is. So it is actually a negative, it's not the camera showing you things backwards. All right, next step will be to cut this out, the outside of this out at the bandsaw. So let's go do some bandsawing. Let's undo this puppy and see how it looks. It looks like it's holding in there pretty nice. All the glue looks dry around the outside edge. Next step, we'll throw it on the CNC machine and clear this off and see what happens. You will never guess what just happened to me. I was sanding and sanding, and boom! The inlay fell apart and exploded pieces everywhere because I didn't get it deep enough. It was too thin, too small, and it just exploded everywhere. And this is a timed piece. It needed to be done right away. So I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna whip up some blue epoxy. That's the school colors. Whip up some blue epoxy and pour it in there and see what happens. So this is what I got. Then you'll never guess what happened. It didn't want to cure in time.
Mission failure.
I mixed it wrong. 2 mistakes. And it took forever to cure. It wasn't gonna be done in time. So I had to give them a different cutting board that wasn't as cool as this one. But you know what? That mistake is gonna make an awesome cutting board. This blue metallic on here, when this walnut is all oiled up, is gonna look amazing. So let's take our mistakes, which are okay to make. It's okay to make mistakes. You're gonna make them. Go make mistakes. Woodworkers aren't perfect. Wood isn't perfect. You have to work with it, and you're gonna have mistakes. It's okay. Go make mistakes. Learn from them. Sometimes those mistakes make the awesomest features of a piece. This is gonna be awesome, all because of a mistake. Go make mistakes. It's okay. Do it. And if it's so bad that it's horrible and you can't live with it, make another one. You can always make more. Make another piece. I'm not making another piece because this mistake is making this board even more awesome. This thing is gonna be so cool. So let's hurry up, get this on the CNC machine, flush it off, throw some oil on it, and see how cool it looks. I'll meet you over there. I have this too. It's got all the oil, mineral oil absorbed in, so we're going to take some of my 2M Builds cutting board conditioner and we're going to oil it up with this, or wax it up, give it a nice little buff and shine. I always use these little, I don't know, they're like Scotch-Brite pads. I get them on Amazon, you buy them by the box. I have a ton of them, they last forever. I just cut them up into little squares. I use them for this and for Rubio Monocoat. But I like to rub the wax in with these, and if you haven't seen these are just a little aluminum angle irons that you get at the big box stores. I think I got these at Menards, maybe, I don't know, somewhere. And I just cut them up, and they work great instead of those little point, you know, those people use those little point painters, and I use them sometimes too, but they'll definitely leave little dings in your wood, and you don't want that. These are nice because you can just lay them out on the board, or on your thing, and you can just leave them on there. Might leave little streaks. So try to keep them with the grain when you can. That way you don't notice if it leaves a little mark. But yeah, I use those. Anyway, let's get started. Let's put some wax on. It's all done. It's beautiful except for some of the flaws, which will be the lessons I learned. And I'm going to show you those shortly. I got some feet on the bottom, stamped my logo in, polished in some of the conditioner. So as you can see, it's incredibly shiny, and it's just a beautiful board. But let's dive in a little deeper and get some close-ups so I can show you exactly what's going on and where those flaws are. So here is the cutting board up close, and I don't know if you can kind of see. I'm going to tilt this a little bit. You can maybe get it, yeah, you can see there's the gaps right in there. You can see all those little pinholes. It just, the glue didn't do well. I tried to put some epoxy in there, it didn't hold. I kind of have the same thing on the side. And there's a little bit more on this side right here. Yeah, you can kind of see them there a little better. Beautiful looking, just has some of those flaws that I just can't put my name to.